I don't know that anybody wakes up one morning and says, you know what, I think I'll get into financial therapy.
They go to do their taxes and their CPA says, I think you should go to a financial therapist.
It's the same thing with financial planning. People don't wake up and go, you know what?
Yeah.
And it's also the same thing with yoga, I found out.
It's episode 42 of the podcast. And for fans of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, you know that means this one's the answer to everything. Fittingly enough, the topic is financial therapy, and it might very well be the answer to everything.
Our guest for this episode is financial therapist Rick Kahler from Kahler Financial Group. Rick explains what financial therapy is, what drew him to the field, the money scripts people tell themselves, and a whole lot more.
This one's rich with information. See what we did there? So listen in to learn more. All right, well, thank you, Rick, first of all, for being on the podcast today. Rick Kahler, Kahler Financial Group, right here in Rapid City. We're going to talk about financial therapy today. So can you talk about your background and why you got into financial therapy?
Yeah, getting into therapy was via a divorce.
Okay.
So that's easy.
Sure.
And that's when I decided, you know what, maybe I better learn something about myself so I don't repeat this.
Sounds like a solid plan.
So that launched me into therapy. And from there, I attended a workshop by George Kinder that was called The 7 Steps of Money Maturity. And in that, he would have breakouts. And I thought, in these breakouts, you know what? You could go do therapy around money in his little dyad breakouts. So I contacted a therapeutic workshop provider that used to be here in Rapid City, on-site workshops that moved to just outside of Nashville. And long story short, they decided, you know what, nobody's doing that. Let's try that. So we came up with a 5.5-day intensive group therapy program around money. We did a study on that. That was the first peer-reviewed study, and we had a control group and everything in money disorders. And does working with a person therapeutically around their money issues move the needle? Is it scientifically significant? It turned out that it was. And from there, I started thinking, okay, I know how to do financial therapy with a group. How does that translate to individuals? How does that translate to a retail application through, say, like a traditional financial planning firm?
Sure.
And so it evolved from there. I never saw myself as a financial therapist. I was one of the co-founders of the Financial Therapy Association. And the original idea was, well, to be a financial therapist, you need formal training in therapy like a licensed therapist. Sure. And you need formal training in financial planning like a CFP or a master's in financial planning. That's the gold standard still to me today. And for that reason, I did not consider myself a financial therapist because I am not a licensed mental health provider. But the Financial Therapy Association saw otherwise, even with my objections, and has come up with a certified financial therapist designation where you need to have one of those disciplines or the other and then have some training in the other discipline.
So you can do one or the other and then get some classes and training and teaching on the other piece of things, and then that gives you sort of there. So is your background prior to financial therapy in more of the financial planning side of things?
Yes.
Okay. So that's where
I have a master's in planning. I'm a certified financial planner, a chartered financial consultant. Yes, I have a wonderfully developed left brain.
So you got that money thing down. You got that.
I got the dollars and cents down, and I'm living evidence that anybody can learn the soft side if you spend enough money and endure enough pain to figure out you've got a right brain.
So that's all it takes. It's just money and pain.
And that right brain will somehow come forth.
Good life lessons.
So if someone came to you and said, like, I don't understand, what is financial therapy? Like, what would your elevator pitch be to them? How would you explain it to them?
This is the pitch I give on airplanes. And I do a lot of writing on airplanes. And oftentimes I don't want to be bothered. And so if somebody asks me, what do you do? And I don't want to talk, I say, hey, I'm a financial advisor. And that shuts down the conversation.
They're like, that sounds boring.
It's done.
I know.
And if I want to talk, I say I'm a financial therapist. And then they're like, what's that? And the way I explain it is, well, you have your investment advisors, traditional financial planners that are heavily dollars and cents oriented on one side of the equation. You have your behavioral change experts on the other side. They're all about money and behaviors and emotions on the other side. The problem is these two disciplines don't talk to each other. The number crunchers, traditional planners, at least I was this way. If an emotion gets out in the room, they want to squash it as quick as possible and get back to the mutual fund chart. And if money comes up in a therapy session, I actually had one therapist tell me this. He said, I just wait for him to stop talking about the money so we can get on to the important stuff. And therapists tend to be money avoidant, too, like money is evil.
Right.
Well, here's the problem. Research shows that 90 to 95% of all financial decisions are made emotionally in the limbic system. Now, left brain folks like myself do not like hearing that because we perceive ourselves to be very logical, very rational. We're not making any emotional decisions.
This is purely based on statistics.
Exactly.
Only facts. Only facts.
So I have to do a little selling on to the financial planning side that's true, and I have a pretty easy way that I can demonstrate that. Your therapist will pretty much admit that they hate money, and they don't like talking about it, and they wish it would go away. But when I say that to the average person, I've almost 100%. I can't think of a time that somebody said something different, but I'm going to give that a chance of having happened. They say, that makes perfect sense. Yes, I'm really emotional around money. So you have no professional in this gap.
Yeah.
And that's where financial therapy fits, is bringing together the dollars and cents with the emotions.
Right. Yeah, we were talking to a previous podcast guest, and pretty much the moment that they mentioned financial therapy as being a thing, we're like, what? That sounds incredibly interesting. And of course it makes sense that that exists, because it seems like a lot of people's problems all funnel back to money. So why wouldn't there be financial therapy?
Yeah. Money is an emotional landmine. We know that money is in the top 5 things that divorce happens around. It touches everything that we do. And I've yet to have somebody come up with something that money doesn't touch. Like even spirituality. If you want to read anything about that, you probably need some money to buy the book. Or if you want to do a retreat, meditation retreat, you're going to need some money to get there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tithing.
we got money running right now with this podcast in the room that we're in, the mic that's in front of us, and getting here, feeding ourselves today.
Existing.
Exactly.
Every time I step out of my house, I feel like I spent $100. Just like, what happened? I need to stay indoors.
So through this process of making this connection between money and the emotional side of things, what has been the thing that has surprised you the most?
Oh, that's a good question. I think what surprises me, and it ought not to surprise me, is how consistently deep money issues are. How prevalent that it is that it's not about the money. Money issues are not about the money. And when I'm working with a client, I'm just awestruck at when we follow the path back typically to being young, typically to a child. That's where the foundation is laid for a lot of our money beliefs and our money scripts.
Yeah.
Kind of come from your parents, however they'd handled money.
Tell me about your mother.
Yeah.
And how they handled it and how they didn't handle it.
Right.
What they said and what they didn't say. What society says and doesn't say. I mean, kids are sponges for this stuff. And so much will go back to that. And trauma. And that's a loaded word. Any therapists listening to this, there's always various definitions of trauma. I talk about little t trauma or big T trauma, and it's a continuum. That's kind of my worldview of trauma.
Yep.
It's some type of a wounding, and what can be traumatic to a kid, a parent doesn't even register that may have been traumatic. And trauma can affect our money behaviors, whether they're about money or not about money. It all comes out in various behaviors. Sure. And one of those behaviors can be financial. And I would go as far to say that almost all hurtful money behaviors have at their root some type of trauma.
When you say a hurtful money behavior, how do you define that?
Overspending would be the most predominant, one of the most predominant.
Spending beyond your means, getting into debts.
Yes, anything that causes something that's not optimal in a person's money. And while I'm thinking about it, there's research that came out last week, or that maybe I just came across, that childhood trauma has now scientifically been tied to a reduction in net worth of 25 to 45%.
Ooh, wow.
And this is done using a evaluation technique that most therapists are familiar with called the ACE. And a certain score over a certain number says, yeah, you had childhood trauma.
Big T trauma?
Not necessarily.
No?
It could be little t trauma, which a lot of little t trauma is called complex trauma.
Okay, gotcha.
That's my understanding. And so they studied this group and came up with that correlation, which inherently makes sense, but it's like a lot of research. It's like, well, yeah, of course we understood that,
Yeah.
sure.
But to quantify it.
But to quantify it to 25 to 45%.
Yeah.
Which means for every $1 million I could have accumulated, I've got 550 to show for it. When I heard that, I think I was being interviewed. And I said, I need to raise my fees. I'm still contemplating that.
Yeah.
I think it's fair.
I was going to say, finally, I can blame my parents for something.
Yeah, I know. It's been a hot
I
minute.
have 45% more of my net worth right now. Come on.
It's all your fault. When you've gone through the process and you're developing and setting up your own practice and learning about the emotions and finances and coming from more of a financial background than necessarily an emotional background, for lack of a better term, what did you learn about your own attitudes or behaviors around money?
In doing this work, it's pretty important that a person has done their own work around their money issues. I can't fathom a financial therapist who hasn't done their own therapy around money. And yet we know it's very popular in the therapy world to not do your own therapy. I was stunned. I just assumed every therapist has been in therapy, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's your profession. You should also be figuring out your own stuff.
The owner of this workshop vendor that I talked about earlier once said, I asked him, what percent of therapists do their own work? And he says 1%. I said, did you say 10? He said, One. He didn't have any research on that. I mean, certainly therapists have to be supervised when they're getting their degree and some things like that. But he was talking about actually personally outside of the professional track of doing their own therapy. I guess I tend to run around with therapists that are probably a little more insightful because they all do tend to be consumers of therapy themselves. But that was rather shocking to me. But getting back to the importance of doing your own work, that's paramount. Because to the degree you have not looked at your own issues around money, is the degree that you won't be able to hold what's coming up with a client, that you won't be able to respond cleanly or objectively because you're being triggered as the therapist.
Yep.
Sure.
And you may not even be hearing what they're saying. You may be projecting all sorts of stuff back to the therapist to say, yeah, I just wait for them to quit talking about money. And I was in a training once with therapists. I was the only non-therapist there. And I loved it when the leader said, if you want to be in this business, because most therapists don't consider themselves being in business, said, you've got to do your own countertransference work. And that's what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And you will only be successful to the degree that you do your own countertransference work. So it's just super important that anybody doing this deeper work has done their own work.
Yeah.
Was there, as you've been doing that yourself, were there things that came up that surprised you, your own biases or blind spots that you had absolutely no idea was even out there?
Totally. I call these police money scripts. And for example, one of my money scripts is you got to work hard for money. That there's a disconnect when I don't work hard and money comes in.
I didn't earn it.
I didn't earn it, and I'm not the only person in the world with that script. And if you have that script held subconsciously and unexamined, this is behind someone who's an inheritor, that the money disappears very quickly. And I've actually had a client once come in. They were really down. I'm like, what's going on? And they said, well, Dad died. And I'm like, oh, no wonder you're down. Yes, I'm so sorry. And they're, in so many words, they're like, no, that's not why we're sad.
Oh, okay.
Whoops.
Didn't leave me anything.
Little projection there. Well, that was the problem.
Yeah.
Oh.
Dad left them something. And it was, this was 20, 25 years ago. It was $5 million.
Whoa.
And they had no idea Dad had any money.
Oh, interesting.
And they said, yeah, I guess we can buy the house we always wanted.
Boy, they sound really bummed out about this.
They were. And then they said, yeah, our friends are like, think that we're really weird, that we're really sad about this. And so I said, you know what, let's try a little exercise here. And we did the money script exercise to see what their subconscious beliefs were around money. We did it separately. They came together. Both of them in their top 5 money scripts had 1 or 2 money scripts that if you didn't work for money, you're not entitled to it.
Oh, wow. So by inheriting it, that violates everything that they have held about how they should receive money.
Exactly. This was not money that they deserved. I've had other similar inheritors have a money script that said this is blood money.
Wow. That's
And I'm not entitled to it. Somebody close to me had to die
I see.
to get this money. So once we figured out what the underlying money scripts were, it made perfect sense. And everything does. Every illogical behavior around money makes perfect sense if we understand the underlying belief system. Mm-hmm. There is no illogical belief about money. Right. So it made perfect sense why they were so sad, because they didn't deserve this. And fortunately, they made smart decisions with that money. Left to themselves, it probably would have been gone.
Wow, okay.
You know, in 5 years.
It doesn't belong to us.
It's
We're
not mine.
We're just going to get rid of it.
We've seen that. We've seen stories here locally of people that have inherited a lot of money and 7-10 years later it is gone. Mm-hmm. It makes perfect sense. Another common one is perhaps they grew up in a family where having money was looked down upon, that the rich only got that way because of illegal activities. Mm. Okay. That the rich are pretentious, just all of those projections. Well, can you imagine when you're the recipient of an inheritance, of a windfall, and the dollars are unimportant?
Yeah.
Now you are what parts of you have despised.
Right.
And that is a real cognitive dissonance within the system. That's a polarization that now I am that which I've hated.
Right.
And we try to help people differentiate, well, that's not you, it's parts of you. There's parts of you that have felt that way. Mm-hmm. There's other parts of you that are like, well, I'm really glad to have it. And other parts where you shouldn't be. Yeah.
And you can live in the tension. It's okay to have that.
You can live in the tension and you can resolve the tension.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other common money scripts or ones that you see the most often that people come in with?
Yeah, that's a good question. I co-authored a book in 2009 called Wired for Wealth that explored money scripts, and we listed the top 10 money scripts. One is I deserve to have money. Oddly enough, another one is I don't deserve money. Another one is the universe will provide.
Okay.
You got to work hard for money. And I forget all of them, but you'll see there are a lot of common money scripts. In fact, Brad Klontz developed what's called the KMSI, the Klontz Money Script Inventory -R.
Okay.
That is a clinically proven way to get an idea of the categories of your money scripts. And that's widely available if you
Okay. So like a
Google
questionnaire you can ask and
I think it's 32, 36 questions.
Okay.
And it will let a person know there's 4 categories of money scripts. Money avoidance, money worship, money status, and money vigilance. There is not a right category. Every one of us has money scripts in each category, but typically there's one that's more dominant than another. I tend to fall into the money vigilant category. And oddly enough, in the money vigilant category money scripts, those people tend to have more money than, say, like the money avoidant category. Sure. And of course, the money avoidant folks think, well, what do you mean there's no best category? Obviously, money vigilant is the right category. The problem is they pay for it with anxiety. They usually hate debt. They hate talking about money. There's a lot of anxiety. They don't tend to have a lot of fun because spending money is not okay.
Right. Doesn't bring them any kind of joy to do that if you're trying to avoid anything that has anything to do with money.
It can be really problematic in retirement because getting to retirement, you're rewarded for being frugal. And being frugal is the common denominator of most people that do accumulate wealth.
Right.
But as I'm sure you've seen, you don't flip the switch at retirement and go, all right, let's spend it down.
You have developed habits over a lifetime, and you're not going to be able to undo those habits overnight as soon as you walk out the door of whatever job that you were working.
I think of a client that at that time they were spending $40 a year, they could spend $120. And I worked with them to try and find a way that they could spend more. And they're like, wow, you want to take a world cruise? No, I don't like boats. We went through, how about a new car?
How about I raise my fees?
I didn't think of that.
Oh, well, you just give that to me and I'll solve that problem for you. How about that?
Yep.
To the point about retirement, when it comes to different generations, do you see those 4 categories showing up in certain generations more, or does it just depend on a person's upbringing, or does age have anything to do with someone's attitudes toward money?
No, I don't think at the core it does. The money scripts can change in that they can modify. Like a really strong money script is one with an is, are, must, always in it. Like, I've got to work hard. I must work hard for money. That's probably a pretty entrenched money script. If you add a can, may into the money script, that's one that has been modified or really isn't that strong. So over a period of time, going back to the you've got to work hard for money, within myself, that's been modified because, I found out that I can not work for money, at least what feels not like work to me, and money comes in, all right? And that's important that has been modified so that parts of me can accept that it's okay. There's nothing wrong about that. Also, I can work hard for money and the money not come in.
Yep.
And that causes a lot of people that have the money script a lot of pain because, wait a minute, I am working my butt off. I have nothing to show for it. It's not supposed to work this way. I'll work harder. Right. I'm not working hard enough.
Yep. I will continue to grind.
I'll double pull on those bootstraps.
Yep.
And so when I can get that perspective, flexibility, therapists would understand flexibility around any type of belief and can start expanding the borders and not be so rigid, that's where change can occur. And so sometimes the longer we live, certainly the more opportunity we have to build flexibility around our money beliefs. It doesn't mean that's going to happen.
Sure. Sometimes those deeply held beliefs are hard to chisel out of there.
Absolutely. Because to your point about, different generations, I feel like, you hear a lot about the generation that lived through the Great Depression.
Right.
Suddenly, everybody had to be big savers. And I'm going to assume that caused a lot of people's money scripts to probably either get added to what they already had or possibly get altered.
Yeah, there's societal influences on our money script. So we're seeing some of that generationally.
Sure.
And usually those influences are instilled in our formative years.
When you get a new client or a client comes to you, are they doing it because they had the foresight to realize the stories I'm telling myself about money aren't true or they're not working? Or are they just in a bad financial place and they figure I got to do something, or a little bit of both?
Yeah, they're typically in pain.
Okay.
I don't know that anybody wakes up one morning and says, you know what, I think I'll get into financial therapy.
They go to do their taxes and their CPA says, I think you should go to a financial therapist.
It's the same thing with financial planning. People don't wake up and go, you know what,
Yeah.
I think I'll go get a financial planner today. And it's also the same thing with yoga, I found out.
I don't feel stretchy today. I think.
Yeah.
Most people don't come to yoga unless they're in pain. I never knew that, but that's what the stats say. So typically it's some crisis. It's really great when it's really intentional in that a person's been doing their work and they decide to get some help. But typically a person's in pain. Typically a person is stuck. I'm asked, how do I know if I need financial therapy, or what's the best way to ascertain that? And I just say, if you're stuck. And I'll also say, I'll have advisors say, well, how do I know if a person's stuck, or if this is an emotional problem or not? I say, well, just look at the problem. You probably know the solution as an advisor, or even the person knows the solution if I'm overspending. Right. Okay, there's a lot on the internet about this.
Yeah. Right.
I need to spend less.
Right next to a bunch of ads about stuff that you should be buying.
Very true. Well, just come up with the plan to spend less, right?
Sure.
I don't have research behind this, but 20% of all stuckness can be solved cognitively just by going into motion, just by cutting the budget, right? Cutting the budget. I haven't filed my tax return. Okay. Well, these are the deadlines. All right. And here's the steps you need to do.
Here's the documents.
Or call an accountant and they'll help you with that. It's when cognitively I can't take action, or I've taken that action and it doesn't work. Budgeting is the perfect example. Yeah, I tried that budgeting and something blew it every month. Budgeting doesn't work. Right. Okay, that is not a cognitive issue.
Right.
That is an emotional issue that probably a person's going to need some guidance to get through or to uncover. And really, in my opinion, good financial therapy is just helping a person, being a coach, being a guide, helping them work through it. Internal family systems is the modality that I use, which is really helping a person interview themselves, helping a person understand, why does that part just loathe saving money? What's the story? And behind the story is a good intention. It's not that part of us isn't out to destroy it, and that part of us we don't need to get rid of. We need to really understand what the story is.
Right. The stories that you tell yourself about these things and how they impact the way that you then make decisions.
And sometimes we're not even aware that we're telling ourselves that story, or that it's even a story.
Right. But it's just a belief that it's so core to who you are.
This is true.
Yeah. This is the only thing that I know, and it's
right.
It's the part of me, and that
isn't everybody.
Yeah,
right.
Not everybody isn't like that. So, what is a small step that maybe everybody or the vast majority of people could take to be better financially or more emotionally at peace with the money in their lives?
The thing that comes up for me is to get curious. I just finished writing a Christmas column. My editor says, we need a Christmas column, and it can't be about Scrooge.
But it's
perfect. Yeah, a book I co-authored called The Financial Wisdom of Ebenezer Scrooge. This is a good time of the year to bring that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I said, okay, and I don't want it to be about the trite, well, don't put stuff on credit cards, set a budget, da-da-da-da-da. So I went a different direction with it, which is, go ahead and spend. Why are we spending? Typically, we want connection. We're looking for belonging. And to get curious about what's the why behind this? Drilling down, a couple things. Well, why is that important? And then ask yourself, well, why is that important? Well, why is that important? To get curious about our activity as a separate observer of ourselves.
So sort of like stepping back from yourself and trying to be objective if you can't, as much
you
as you can.
can.
Right.
Do a little audit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a feat in itself to not identify myself with the spending. But it's a part of me that's spending. Let me get curious about that. So just becoming curious, becoming willing to open the lid to see what's under there. And we spend our lives resisting doing that. We spend our lives resisting being vulnerable. We spend our lives putting so much out of our mind, like, no, I'm not going there again, which we design pretty complex systems around protecting those wounded areas. So it's really natural not to want to go there and not to want to look at things or to be afraid what I'm going to uncover.
Right.
And becoming willing is really important. I think became willing to make amends is the fourth step, I think, of the 12 steps.
Program, yeah.
Program, and that's pretty important.
Kind of like being willing to make amends to yourself, to be at peace with the person that you are or were.
Yep.
Because that person was setting up systems to protect whatever, to survive, basically.
Once we understand that the critical parts of ourselves were doing that to protect us, it's the only way I've ever made peace with my critic. Was understanding I'm not going to silence the critic. In fact, probably that's not going to work right. Self-shame isn't a great motivator, doesn't really lead to permanent behavioral change, but to more understand what the intention of that critic was. And it was really to protect me and letting it know, you know what, I'm not 8 years old anymore. And this was really important when I knew doing something like that was going to get me in trouble. But today it won't, and in fact, today it's hurting me.
And now I'm a full-grown adult, and I have different coping mechanisms.
Yep.
And a different skill. Absolutely.
How about for people, and you talked about those who are money avoidant, that probably need to have conversations with family members or spouses? What is something like a simple step they can take to start having those conversations with people that they should be having those conversations with?
One thing that is important is when talking with somebody else around money issues is to frame it in eyes and keep the conversation about how I'm feeling and what would be helpful for me when we need to have a money conversation with somebody. So especially if it's a partner, we lead with you.
You always?
Yeah. And this is hard work because usually with couples, the sense is if my partner would change, there wouldn't be a problem. And so this is the getting curious part, is to say, well, what am I feeling around this? What do I need? But why does what my partner do upset me so much? And oftentimes in working with couples, we'll find out they both are on the same page. When we drill down, they both want the same thing, which let's just say is more connection. And the way they're going about it is very, very different and actually sabotaging their chances of having that. So, but to have a conversation, it's really important to take the you out. When writing an email, if you're writing it, it's really important to take the you out. And oftentimes I have to reread my emails a few times to do that now. I was just thinking, I wonder if I could get ChatGPT to take on all the use.
Need you to remove this so that the other person will not feel attacked.
Change these use statements to I statements.
I once got an email from a therapist who was very upset with me. And another therapist that I was working with at Reddit said, do you realize there's 73 U's in this? So maybe that's why I was feeling so attacked.
Boy, they could have definitely worded this better.
You need to take out U's in your email.
So, I mean, financial therapy, because when you talk about like in an airplane and people get the, oh, that makes complete sense. But at the same time, we feel like we've never heard about it, but it does make complete sense. People's money decisions are incredibly emotionally driven. Where do you think the profession is going to go in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, it's grown phenomenally in the almost 15, 16 years since we started.
And that's still pretty, that's pretty new, 15, 16 years. That's pretty fresh.
I think I'm remembering 10, 20 years ago, financial planning had only been around for 40 years, and we still didn't know what we were, and we still didn't have a definition and don't today as to what is financial planning.
Yep.
I see financial therapy being in that space for a long time. There is a lot of interest in financial therapy. The public receives it. That said, the hardest workshop to fill is one on financial therapy.
Really?
When I speak especially at gatherings of therapists, I have never had a session that was full. Let's say the number is 25 or 40. Usually it's a handful of very courageous people that will come out. And it was even true in speaking to financial planners. When you're talking to financial planners and emotions, those were very lonely events. It's changing today because more and more financial planners are starting to understand with the advent of AI, the fact that investments have been commoditized, that the only thing left is going to be the relationship.
Right.
What I'm saying is there's so much shame. My co-author was a psychologist that I actually started the week-long money workshops with. We were coming away from the first one, walking to our cabin, and he says there's more shame in that room than any workshop I've ever done. Now, this is a guy that's done, at that time, 20 years, 30 years of workshops. It's also a guy that was level 3 certified in sexual addiction.
Oh, my God.
And I said, Ted, you mean outside of like sexual addiction workshops? And he looked at me and did the normal. What I said.
It's what I meant.
There's more shame in that room than any workshop.
Why do you think that is?
Here's how I help financial planners, and I would add to that accountants, help emphasize that they have money issues. And so when I'm speaking, I say, in just a minute, I'm going to ask you to come up front here, assuming, say, I'm on platform in front of the room. And let's draw an imaginary line. On the left-hand side of the room is, we're going to be asking you what your net worth is 0 to negative, and the right is over 10 million. So just look at that. In the middle here is 5 million. Just look at where you're going to be standing in a few minutes. Get that in your mind, where you're going to go on this line. And when I count to, and you can just see the blood draining from the faces. And then I'll say, okay, I'm not going to do that. But how many of you could recognize a feeling that you had around this? Another one is tonight at your reception, everybody you go up to, I want you to shake your hand, introduce yourself, and just tell them how much you're worth and what you made last year.
I love that idea, honestly.
And then ask them.
Ask them how much they're worth.
And that helps get it that there is so much shame around money in this society that we're in. So much shame around what a person earns, what a person is worth. These are very secretive things that can really cut to the core of our identity and insecurities. And this is the same shame that any client of a financial planner, a tax accountant, a financial therapist that they have coming to them. It takes so much to make that phone call, to walk in the door, because money is the huge shamer.
Mm-hmm.
You have to turn over your information about your worth to a stranger who may judge you, or in your mind may judge you, probably won't judge you, but may judge you based on whatever, like, oh, you don't have money, so you aren't a hard worker, if that's the script that they have, or you have all of this money but making bad decisions, or whatever it is. Yeah, and it isn't anything that you can talk about politely. It doesn't come out at Thanksgiving or anything like that, how much everybody's
Exactly. It's a very lonely place. I once had somebody that was worth $2 million say, it's so lonely. Can you put me in a group with other people worth the same that I am? And then I also have clients that are into the ultra net worth category who have so much shame about the money they have. That I have heard I have to be the most miserable rich person in the world.
Hence the phrase, money doesn't buy happiness, I suppose.
It doesn't. The first time I ever heard a person interviewed that had money, he was referred to as a G2, second generation person that inherited money. And this was back in probably 1999, 2000, at the beginning of my journey. I was just like, get a grip, dude. Get a grip. How many people would love to be in your position, and here you are whining about all your money problems? And I feel sad about that response, and yet it's not an unusual response where I can have the belief that if you have money, you don't have problems. And I would suggest in some cases, having money can actually compound the problems. We used to have a 85-year-old lady who had a lot of money come down to our workshop, and she would be interviewed by the class on how is it to have more than enough. Because she would say, I help 30,000 people a year with what I give. Wow. And she popped her head in the door as she arrived, said hi to the group, and she's closing the door, and she opens the door again and says, you know what? I don't know who has it worse, the poor or the ultra-rich. She kind of pauses, thinks about that. She says, at least the poor have each other. And with the very few ultra-rich people I've worked with, it's not uncommon. Everybody in their life is on their payroll, especially, say, a celebrity. They can't walk into a 12-step group and just be Rick. Right. They are whoever they are, like, immediately. They can't hide.
Yeah.
I've talked with people, even here in our community, that have said, I am so sad when somebody finds out my last name or who I am.
Because that connection that you want, it's like that money becomes...
Now's my money. I worked with one lady that was on boards all across the country. She was a G2, and I listened to her once sob for 25 minutes. I mean, sob. And in that time, she said, my friends tell me nobody works harder to be middle class than I do. And the second thing was, I'm on boards all over this country. Not once do I have the satisfaction of knowing I was on a board because of who I am. It's always because of my money.
It isn't because they like me or they thought that my insights were great. It's because they knew I had money.
So it's a whole special set of problems that come with having money. And so it doesn't matter if a person has a negative net worth or a person is ultra rich. The money issues can still be there. Both classes can have a really healthy attitude toward money or a real detrimental attitude with money. I just don't know that. I'd almost say people with a lot of money can have more pain.
More money, more problems.
It's like a song.
I've heard that somewhere. More money, more problems. It could be very true.
Could be some truth to that. Yeah.
It's one of the standard classics of all time. If you were able to wave a magic wand and fix someone's attitudes or the majority of people's attitudes toward money, what is something that you would, for the majority of people want to change their mind about or fix for them.
Or delete the concept of money entirely. And
Well, there's a book out that talks about that talks about the gift economy.
Oh, yeah.
I still have not gotten my head around it. If I could wave a magic wand, everyone would have financial well-being. Everyone would be healed in the fact that financial well-being is the ability to pay your bills, to have enough for you, is to be taking care of yourself, to be safe, to be well-fed, to be in good shelter and clothes. And that would be my hope. I mean, that's the real agenda of a financial therapist, is financial well-being. Now, you could argue, can you have financial well-being without emotional well-being? This is an argument I appeared quoted in the Jerusalem Post recently. And they took exception with what I said about what financial well-being was. And financial well-being, physical well-being, and emotional well-being are all tied together into well-being. And you can make a pretty good argument that if you don't have one, it impacts the others. But it would be that we would have financial well-being. It would be that we would have financial well-being as a country. I mean, the very models that are out there as a country or governments need a lot of healing. Need a lot. I mean, our whole society needs a lot of healing. The fact that, pick your statistics, somewhere between 48 and 70% of people would have to sell something or borrow to come up with $1,000. This is a national epidemic. This is a real problem. And what would it be like if there could be healing around this and people would have financial well-being? It would completely change our country.
Maybe put yourself out of business,
Yep.
but maybe for a good cause, essentially.
so you'd wave a magic wand and be out of a job.
Well, that's fine with me.
Yeah. There'd be some other problem.
But he would be stable and safe and all the other nice things.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like you could record financial therapy sessions and just publish them. Just get somebody to sign a waiver, and because I would listen to that all day.
Absolutely.
Well, now there's another podcast idea.
Yeah.
You can just add that to your ever-growing list.
I mean, can you imagine, like, say you sit down with like an NFL player and you get into financial therapy with them, and just somebody from all kind of walks of life, and
And that's a whole subset. I worked with some NFL players for a while. And their term for the NFL was not for long.
Yeah.
yep,
And I think the average person, it's been a little while, but I think the average player lifespan was 2 to 3 years.
Wow.
It's shocking.
short.
That's short.
And the amount of money that they have, the starting income, and the benefits are equal to the starting income. And it was pretty phenomenal. And it's just, I think it's pretty well publicized how most die poor.
Yeah.
And because of money scripts and because of cultures. Now, money scripts are also cultural, that very few of them come out with any money. And very few of them are the $50 million a year quarterback.
Right.
So you have a career where your body is your currency, and it's probably going to get destroyed by the time you're done in a very short period of time. You probably didn't come into the job with a lot of good money sense, and you're not there very long, and now you got to figure out what to do with the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, one time I thought I'd like to make that my clientele. Doesn't sound like a very good business plan, does it?
I'm too sure. Although you could raise your fees that way. I mean, that would be one way to do it. Maybe need a lot of clients.
I mean, if you think about it, that's tough because most of them either, they go to college, they're playing football. They're probably not going to school for financial therapy or anything like that. So they don't know what's coming. And then effectively you win the lottery for
Exactly.
for 2 to 3 years. And unless you were prepared and had a written plan of I'm going to put this here and this here, chances are you're going to just leave it up to your emotions, and who knows how that ends up.
Totally. There's a group, it's called the Financial Transitionist Institute. They have a certification called the Certified Financial Transitionist. And it was actually working with their founder that I worked with the NFL. And what you've just described is a sudden money event. The book is called Sudden Money by Susan Bradley. And sudden money events are problematic for that reason. And a sudden money event, you see them all the time. It's called an inheritance.
Yep.
And the same dynamics are applying. We typically are not ready for it. And then what happens is, because I'm not ready for it, I don't have the tools, I haven't spent time laying down any type of framework, unless you are fortunate enough to come in contact with a person like a certified financial transitionist or somebody with high integrity that can just put a pause on everything and help you build the skills. You're a predator attractor. And there's plenty of people out there that want your money and know what to do with it for their own benefit.
Yeah.
And you see that like a bunch of flies around roadkill, around the NFL players and in these things. You see them around people perceived to have deep pockets, say like physicians or entertainers. Everybody wanting them as their client because, wow, they got the bucks and I know what to do with it and the commissions are great.
Yep.
So it's a real problem. But you can find a certified financial transitionist by Googling that, and she's got a website with folks that have been certified in helping people. It's a transition.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it is.
And Bridges taught us that and every transition has an ending. It has passage, which is really tumultuous, and then it has a new beginning.
Yeah.
And having a guide through that is important. And of course, there's more transitions in life than just financial.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So that reminds me of, talking with clients that are going through a family ranch and trying to figure out, what do I do now? Or trust in estates and that whole side of things too. So.
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, there's a lot of it is related to money, but to your point, a lot of it is, you're going to see all kinds of changes through your life, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And
And estate planning is fraught, as you know, with emotions, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's not about logic.
Yeah.
No, that's why so many families fracture when that happens, and you're fighting over maybe not anything hardly, but
Money discussions don't happen. Back to how do I have a hard money discussion?
yeah,
Parents don't tell someone that they're the executor of an estate, thinking that it's an honor.
yep.
It is not an honor.
It's a lot of work.
Yep.
The kids don't know.
Right.
Like with my example, had no idea they were going to be inheriting money.
Which makes you almost feel like a little bit that they kept something like that. Like, well, if they kept this from me, my gosh, what else?
That's
did they
where I
not
thought
tell me?
That's where I thought that was going. I thought it was going to be, what do you mean mom and dad were rich?
Yeah.
Why didn't we grow up in a better lifestyle type of situation? Right?
It can be.
Yeah.
In that case, it was all in land.
Oh, wow.
It was the farm.
Yep.
Yep.
And mom and dad, this is true in our area. The ranch. What's your return on the investment in a ranch? Maybe 1%, maybe 2%. And that may not produce just a really flush lifestyle.
Yeah.
And yet not realizing what that was worth.
Right. Until you go to sell it, and then that's a whole different conversation.
Exactly.
Crazy.
That's all of the questions that we have. Was there anything that we didn't discuss that you wanted to make sure that we
Well, there was plenty.
Oh man.
Plenty we did discuss. How long is this podcast? 5 hours?
It's gonna be bad. We could do a series.
Yes,
It was.
we can.
It was awesome talking with you.
Yeah. So, cool. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was fun.
And if if you ever have another topic or something that you want to, hash out or something like that, just let us know. We always love to have guests, especially repeat guests.
Or if any listeners have any questions about financial therapy,
Yep.
let us know and we'll hit you on round 2.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. So, yeah.
I'll do that.
Awesome. And now the legal stuff. This podcast and associated communications are intended to provide general information about tax, finance, investment, and other financial matters. Although Casey Peterson Ltd has made every reasonable effort to ensure that the information provided is accurate, we make no warranties expressed or implied.
Be aware that this is not a comprehensive analysis of the subject matter covered. It is not intended to provide specific recommendations to you or your business. Advisory services offered through Vantex Planning Partners, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Securities may be offered through a Cetera Wealth Services, LLC, member FINRA, SIPC. Additional advisory services may be offered through Cetera Investment Advisors, LLC. Cetera named entities and the Vantex Planning Partners, Inc. are affiliated 3390 Asbury Road, Dubuque, Iowa, 52002 563-582-2855. Check your financial professional's registration status on brokercheck.finra.org and/or advisorinfo.sec.gov. Cetera named entities and Vantex Planning Partners, Inc. are independent of and unrelated to Casey Peterson, Ltd.
Hey, Hillary,
Hey, Evan.
why did the estate planner start going to therapy?
I don't know why.
They had too many unresolved trust issues.
That's funny because it's a trust mistake.